Bravo.
And there's a little bit of reverb on it.
Yeah.
No, can you turn this down just a little bit? Okay, that sounds better. But anyway, we've now been able to translate the outline for the remainder of the program, and we have all the detail we need to run through today and tomorrow. The main parts of the day for today are going to be preparing you for the most significant thing that you'll be taught, I think, this trip, which is to undertake a Betcher Hoover scan. That will be preceded by technique and some stuff from, I hope, me, and flame body study, which will happen immediately after lunch. So we'll be working with techniques 8. We'll be doing the Rusheya induction, which is the new symbol that you've been given this morning. And we'll also do technique 13 to further decode dance, the shadow dances that we all share to some degree. Now, the reason why we're doing it this way is of strictly personal benefit to you, because when you start to scan your own fields, there are some extremely interesting things that I'm sure you'd all love to know more about, and there are some things that we know that you won't want to know much more about. You will be able to determine with practice. I'm not telling you, we're not telling you, sorry, we're not telling you that you'll be taught how to do this scan this afternoon and you'll be able to undertake the scan completely successfully. One, because it's a technique you need to practice to actually scan, to be able to obtain the information, to pull the data. And two, because on a psychological, emotional, mental level, there is still too much dance according present in fields to enable people to manifest the requisite levels of courage and honesty. Because, as I said, there are some pieces of information there that you don't want to discover, probably, in some. The good things are that you'll be able to establish the level of your own flame body activation. You'll be able to establish your tribal association and therefore your affiliation with a particular Stargate. You will not want to discover just how much miasmic rubbish you're carrying around in your fields. You won't want to discover the extent of shadow dance according in your fields either. You will want to know which of the 3 primary founder families you came from, the Elohai, the Seraphai, or the Brahmarama. You will love to discover your Urushe family crest. You will love to discover more about whether or not you're carrying an Emerald Order Templar, one of the 144,000 Emerald Order Templar contracts, because that's awfully impressive and exciting. But you won't want to discover what your connections with Knights Templar or Knights Malta are, which are either the Anunnaki or the Drak groups, right? Because bear in mind that in our modest, a handful of cosmic incarnations, there have been times during our current lifetimes in which we have, in quotes, slept with the enemy for high strategic purpose. And that means that we've shared codes with people who, by and large, when I hear people talking, all Anunnaki are bad and all Draks are bad and all Necromaton and Omicron and all the other sorts of ne'er-do-wells, fallen mob, are not things, not entities that we want to associate with. But the truth is, the reality is that we all have. And anyway, they're not all bad either. Now, I'm coming at it this way because there has been a subject that Ashana and Makiana and myself and Maha and Rayon and some others have shared from time to time, and to be perfectly blunt, we've shied away from addressing it full frontally, and I think that before we do the Betcher Hoover scans today, it's probably appropriate, and that's why they've picked me to do it probably, is to do some full frontal, like, let's get real sort of stuff. Come on, Ma. When Angelic Realities was published, people who came on the Bermuda trip were reminded that for some time now, almost 3 years, there have been 4 or 5 pages of material that has been transmitted by the Guardians that have made it perfectly plain what the protocols associated with making contact with Guardians involves. Well, it didn't seem to have an awful lot of impact on an awful lot of people, to my observation. And so, Maha encouraged me to undertake the development of what we call the nodes and tangents, or the witness quiz, which is a way of providing people with an independent means of getting an objective read on what some of the 3D, what some of the kind of characteristics of their current makeup are expressed in 3D language, through 3D observation. But even though we did that, to be quite honest, we shied away from playing much at all with any of the personal interpretive stuff. I mean, I specifically said to people I didn't really want to go there. I mean, I said that myself. I didn't want necessarily to violate your sovereignty. And this is a very interesting question, because there is no question whatsoever, there isn't a grain of reservation whatsoever in Ashana and myself, and I say also for Mac, in our commitment to you. But you see this as the work. You may see it as work for 3 days without sleeping, and that's kind of what we do, fine. But these are expressions of love and commitment to you. You are the team. You are our team in the biggest sense of it. We don't think of ourselves any differently for any of you. We have shadow dancer attachments too, which we have to deal with. And we have to be awfully candid with each other at times when we walk into a new environment and we're not perhaps as aware, or maybe more tired than we should be. We don't have our shields up and reinforced when we go into a new environment, and we start finding that some of the frequency and some of the stuff in the grids is snapping at our heels, and we feel scratchy and awful, and it takes us 2 or 3 minutes to recognize it before we actually begin to undertake some degree of corrective action. And this implies awareness. Now, as kind of captains of the team, reluctant captains of the team too, I add, we have an interesting kind of relationship with some of the issues. Because, as you've seen in the last year or so, there have been certain changes in the organizational structure. The Azurite Temple is no longer. Why? Well, it's not to do with Plan B particularly, but what it is definitely to do with is that the Ani found that the temple organization was inviting people to lean in on the organization, not in on themselves. Regardless of the many thousands of words that have been brought through, and regardless of the many conversations and the many gatherings that have occurred, and many occasions in which people have speculated either in workshop situations or in their groups back home or on the e-group or wherever else, you hear the expression, who's getting this, who's getting that, who's getting the other thing. Well, it's one thing to become technically proficient with this material. But if anybody thinks that to get technically proficient with the material, notwithstanding being able to remember how to do a technique or two, what it is that needs to be got is the idea of self. And in order to get the idea of self, it presupposes that you have a degree of self-awareness, which implies an established degree of self-honesty as well. Now, the last thing that any of us, Ashana or myself personally here or now, or Maha, or any of the other guardians want to do, is to think that we are judging anybody specifically or in a collective sense. But there is nothing whatsoever wrong in talking to a team and saying, hey team, if you want to think about your individual as well as collective efficiency, there are certain realities you're really going to have to get your hands on. Because really, you can do the techniques till the cows come home, and people have heard me say this before. The techniques will get you to the door, but they won't get you through it. I talked with some people during Bermuda in which I shared some of the insights that we're familiar with in terms of what it's like to live in a culture that experiences collective consciousness as an automatic right of being, an everyday way of being, right? In which everything that is known by an individual is shared by the whole. Every emotional or mental thought train that is entertained by an individual is shared by the whole. If you entertain negative thoughts, if you actually allow yourself to run patterns of observation which are fundamentally judgmental, you will actually contaminate the collective field. There are behaviors that exist within this group in this workshop now, as much as there have been behaviors in other workshops at other times, in which the same thing has occurred here in 3D. And we can't tell you not to do it. All we can do is to say, look, you're actually wasting your time studying this material if you don't understand that what it leads to is a point at which you have a refined awareness of self. You have an expanded awareness of self. You might not yet reach the point where you can actually touch the childlike innocence of Source. Because the expression of Source is the most unspeakably innocent thing you could ever comprehend. It is the most powerful, yet the most defenseless phenomenon that we'll ever actually engage with. It is more vulnerable than a baby. It is a zillion times more powerful than any collective of individuation that you could think of. It is quite extraordinary. And yet all of you seek to return to that. All of you actually are here to learn how to be Iani. All of you are here to want to, if you can, take your bodies through a portal, next May perhaps, or next fall perhaps. And if you just spend a moment just reflecting on yourself as you know yourself to be right now, do you think that you're ready to go? Do you really think that you will not pollute the collective culture of Inner Earth? Really? Do you think? And do you think that when you come to scan your own fields, when you come to look at yourselves as you really are right now, do you think you've got the guts to see all of it and own all of it? And to say, I am prepared to do something, whatever it takes, I am prepared to do whatever it takes to prepare myself, to rejoin my family. That is only one small step toward true Christ consciousness, but it's a good one, and it's one that will work, and it is one that will carry you forward. But if anyone thinks that you can play around with lip service, you can play around with techniques, you can play around with just about anything that engages your mind and your body without recognizing that the first prerequisite is bringing forward the essence of your compassion, your kindness, your respect, your expanded awareness for all forms of life. How many people leave their homes each morning and greet a tree or a plant or a blade of grass? How many remember to express, to recognize, to share the reverence of all life? How far are we from recognizing who we really are? Because, you know, we're a lot further from being who we think we are than we'd like to think. So you're going to be taught how to do a scan today that will reveal very, very deeply much about you. You are our team and we love you to bits. We'll work our T1Ts off to try and move this team forward. We don't expect a damn thing from anybody. We don't even necessarily expect to listen to us for long. We do it with as much innocence as we can bring forward. We do it with every grain of ourselves that strives to do what I'm talking about. And we still see ourselves as imperfect. We still see ourselves as being capable of being and doing so much more than we can. And as a team that we would like to carry forward, we need you to feel relaxed enough about who you are, to like yourself enough now. Because if you don't like yourself, warts and all, you're going to get stuck with some of the rubbish. The dancers will hold you. You won't release it then. And the reason why we decided to put me on the spot and attempt to have this conversation this morning is out of love, and it's the nearest thing ever to tough love that we ever shared with any of you. But the reason for the need to raise these things should be pretty obvious. And it strictly is, because we want to get as many of us home as quickly as we can. There is another team waiting for our arrival. There is another massive project required of us. It will be a reseeding. We're training to reseed. We're not just training to reseed some form of a human. We're training to develop our technical competence, which includes all of the things that we normally consider to be emotional and mental body aspects, in which your relationship with every life form you can think of. Just look around you and look out the window. Nothing that surrounds you is dead. It's all alive. How can we teach the plants a technique that will decode their dances? How can we teach the minerals in the ground to decode theirs? How can we teach the trees? Some of us can communicate, but there isn't a technique we can give them. All of those forms, they rely on us. And right now, we're not fully able to rely on ourselves. We do not yet conduct ourselves as if we've got a full and final grasp on our apparent commitment, individually and collectively, to be who we think or want to be. And we've really got to get ourselves sorted. This is a brilliant team. And there are bits and pieces here and there, some big bits and pieces here and there, that are actually compromising our ability to progress as quickly as we'd like. People call us, people get us in corners, people send us emails, people use other devices. And they come to us asking to comment and resolve all manner of individual concerns and considerations. And you know, it drives me bloody nuts, excuse me. And people say, you know, Az is overprotective. Cool. If you were standing or sitting where I am, blimey, you'd run a mile. Do you know what from? Do you know what from, though? The exasperation. The emotional charge that comes up when we're looking at those we love so much and think, my goodness me, when are we going to get it together? You know, when are the fullbacks going to tackle with that kind of veracity, that kind of belief that they can take it from anybody if it's appropriate divine right order? When are our midfield players going to rediscover their skills to move the thing around with that kind of supreme confidence and elegance and grace? And when are the forward runners actually going to start busting some nets in the back of the goals? Because every damn one of you has got all of those skills and talents. But you're so concerned with such minutai. You're so concerned with the victim and victimizer game, with little flurries here and there where you express your superiority over your own brothers and sisters in a workshop like this one. I'm sorry, but there are a huge number of people associated with our work, here and elsewhere, who still indulge themselves in that kind of behavior. It isn't going to get you where you want to be. And it certainly won't help you this afternoon when we start playing with the scan, right? Because if you can't get real about some of those ordinary things, when you start discovering things in your fields that you don't want to look at, you know, sure, you'll go and grab the stuff that is kind of like, ooh, yeah, well, I'm one of them. You know, that's cool. Oh, yeah. You know? But I mean, what's that? That's just confirmation of what you hope you are. The stuff that's getting in your way of realizing that fully, no, I must have made a mistake. No, I don't have a big blotch on D8, sub-frequencies 1 through 9. No, I'm not seeing that right. Nah, somebody else has those, not me. But the thing is, you might. And the way that you're gonna progress is to say, okay, that's what I'm getting, right? And I'll check in a day or two's time. And if I see it again, I'm really start taking it seriously. And I'll check one more time maybe in a couple of days. And if I still see the same thing, I'm going to treat that as real. And I'm going to go for it. You know? I mean, how do you think we do things with the simple drawings and some of the complex diagrams? You know, the amount of trust that the data that we're receiving is extraordinary. And if you don't begin somewhere in being willing to have the courage and the trust together and the love in the middle, you'll never open. You won't start opening to interpreting data, much less receive it. You have to start to do that. You have to be willing. And that involves a willingness to make mistakes and to be honest with yourself when you do. Because you can't love yourself, you can't like yourself if you don't own some of that. You know? So, what should I tell you? The Bethe Hoover scan, it will enable you to read down from D12, all levels down from D12, but you will be shown how to access the sub-frequencies 1 through 9. Okay, so this is a level 2 scan that you'll be taught, not level 1, level 2. Now, in a second, we'll do Technique 8, and then we'll go from there into the induction of the Rusheya. And then we'll do some further decoding work, which will help you a lot in terms of your first practices with the Hoover scans this afternoon. So just to give you instructions, so we keep it fairly smooth, on how we handle the Rusheya. Now, the significance of this presently is to do with the fact that you receive the gold flame infusions as a result of the work we did at Montségur, right? Now, those frequencies, the D8 and the D14 pale yellow key Rusheya frequencies, are presently stored in your shields, right? They're not fully activated. You haven't actually pulled them through yet, fully. The Rusheya is the symbol that actually facilitates that process. It has other purposes, other applications, but for now, that is what the Rusheya will do for us. All right. Now, the breathing is slightly different, but not a lot. With the eyes cross focus on the symbol, right? You will draw frequency up as you did originally. All right. Draw Maharic frequency up and pull the symbol into the pineal. All right. You will actually exhale down to the earth core as you did before, and this is where the difference comes in, is because on the next inhale, and I'll remind you of this when we do it, on the next inhale you will draw the Rusheya back from the earth core into the center of your Maharic shield on the next in-breath. Okay? And on the out-breath that follows that, from the Rusheya will be at the center of the shield, you will then, on the out-breath, you'll expand it into your shield. Okay? So you'll actually really expand the symbol right through the 4-foot diameter shield. And then you will follow that by assuming a relaxed breathing. You just go into normal breathing, okay? But when you go there, you'll need to be just visualizing or intending, if you can't get any visual on it, that the D8 and the D14, the gold and the pale yellow frequencies, start to flow from the shield and are permeating throughout your fields. All right, right throughout the entire auric field. And we will spend several minutes, okay, while in whatever way it feels appropriate to you, and bear in mind, if I have to remind you, that the frequencies are quite aware of you and what you're doing, okay, so that the most warm, loving, positive, enthusiastic, happy, joyful, celebratory sensations that you can actually receive the frequencies with will assist the frequencies to flow. All right? And if I have to remind you also that the symbol is conscious of you when you're beginning to induce it, try and engage some similar sense. You know, when you hold a symbol in your hand, when you lift it up to your eyes, try and recognize the reality of it. It's a living thing, even though it exists in 2D on a piece of paper. It's aware of you, and that's kind of strange. But it is. And when you hold it, you know, allow yourself to feel a relationship with it. Don't let it just be this thing on a piece of paper. Because as you bring forward the same sense in relation to it as you would to a baby, a vulnerable baby, as you would if you were really fully there with a flower or a tree or a blade of grass or a crystal, the 2D symbol is as real and as alive as those things are. And the more that you can bring forward the sense in yourself that you acknowledge and recognize it, the essence in everybody else, where all that other kind of rubbish behavior would disappear. It's the same thing. You know, I'm not just banging on about the 3D issues just in a personality fashion at all. The reason for it is because this personality stuff that we still engage in actually prevents us from being able to access the mental and emotional forms that we'd use to express deep feeling appreciation, to know and acknowledge the reality of that. And when you go to other kinds of workshops and you hear people blabbing about oneness, you know, yeah, it's just like spiritual coffee morning talk. You know, oneness, we're all one. Sure we are. You know, but we need to lend it expression. And so as we learn to do that, we lend our collection, our gatherings together expression. And when we all go home, we can still feel each other when we're away. We don't miss each other as if we've just chopped off an arm or something. The connection that we share, we begin to practice as the Ayani already know it to be their reality now. We have conscious connection with each other in the making. So you don't necessarily have to worry about the telephone or the email or the website or some other means. If there is a question that your Christos somehow can't communicate to you, you can connect with each other. I mean, just expect that. Because this is the life that you want to enter. This is the place you want to go. As I think I said in Bermuda, the Aborigines tell us that the Westerners are incapable of telepathy anymore, and the reason why is because they lie all the time. Well, just think about what happens, because lies mean screens, right? And they are energies, right? So the more people play and pretend and they maintain masks, you're actually building battles, right? So any attempt at energetic linking is going to be blocked, right? Simple. So if you want to open, and strip away all the nonsense. That way you will really make progress. Okay, that way if you want to induce a symbol code, you really, really will. If you want to pull those frequencies in today, try if it's the first time, well, I never thought of it that way. That's okay. We all have these discoveries from time to time, and that should be a joyful thing. Because you go, gosh, some more growing to do. Cool. Everyone goes, oh, more growing to do. How long is this going to go on for? How many more lifetimes I've got to live? Look, guys, this is infinity, right? It's forever. All right, so we've got a pretty bum job right now. It's a bit of a struggle. It's an imperfect world, right? It's a system, a structure, a way of being that requires filthy lucre in order to make your way around the place. Somebody else is cool. We're not revolutionaries. Never will be. Right? But it's a miserable blooming place to have to be. There's ruin, chaos, pain, cruelty everywhere. And we have to rationalize that. We have to find a place for ourselves in which we make that okay. And we don't judge people. And we can find in there. You know, who's stopping you from feeling joyful? Who's stopping you from rising to a slightly higher level and seeing how when certain world events that involve a lot of souls passing over, that you can learn to see that and see in there some opportunity to celebrate the fact that we've actually got some more over and we've been able to transfer some linkages in a very beneficial way. And it isn't all pain, chaos, suffering, all the rest of it isn't all limitation. And we choose. And the funny thing about choosing is that even when we choose an inferior or negative alternative, we actually know we're doing it. We know, don't we? We know when we take that kind of choice, and we can see the higher choice, and we just can't be bothered. Or we don't feel in a good enough mood. Or somebody tried to run us over with a pram or something. There'll always be a reason. You know? We'll just rationalize it. And the dancer is sitting in the back going, cool, that still works. Yeah. Oh, they haven't seen that one yet. You know, we'll keep them going with that. You know. Anyway. Is that enough? All right. Anyway. So, technique 8, and the Rushaya. and then 13. And we're just going to do the instant buffer. We're not going to do the full one. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, we are. Sorry. Maha respectfully requests that you ignore me and do the full one. I just got a tap on the shoulder. Okay. All right. Everybody happy with the lighting? I mean, it's a case of dropping the lights and putting them back up again for the symbol. Are you all right with the lighting? Is that right? Okay. So, if we're sitting comfortably, we'll begin. So, just do the usual wriggle on your seat and get as comfortable as you can. Bring your attention to your breathing rate and just modulate it a bit. Try and bring it towards about whatever you feel a half of your normal breathing speed is. And as you're doing that, continue to concentrate on slowing your breathing. And whilst you're doing that, bring to mind the Akasha symbol teardrop shape. Visualize it or intend it to be there in pale silver, with a 24.3 dimensional star at the center, unless you're already working with the ruche at the center of it. Now set the Akasha Hierophant symbol at the center of your brain at the pineal gland, if it's not already there. Inhale and forcefully exhale, pushing the Akasha Hierophant from the pineal into Earth's core. Hold your breath for 3 to 4 seconds while imagining 3 tiny Ki-Rache flames, one pale turquoise, one pale yellow, and one pale pink, gently bursting upward to surround the Akasha Hierophant within the Earth's core. Now inhale the Akasha Hierophant with the 3 Ki-Rache flames up to the Maharak shield center, 12 inches below your feet. Exhale forcefully, imagining the Akasha Hierophant and the 3 flames expanding outward on a horizontal plane throughout your disc. Imagine the disc expanding outward to about 4 feet wide. Hold the breath for 3 to 4 seconds following the out-breath, while imagining that your 4 foot wide pale silver Maharak shield at the soles of your feet vibrates as cycling currents of turquoise, yellow and pale pink frequencies blend with the pale silver Maharak current. And try to sense a gentle buzzing sensation as your shield frequencies accelerate in oscillation rate to carry the Ki-Rache. Inhale, using the inhale breath to draw a ball of Ki-Rache plus pale silver frequencies into the center of your Maharak shield from the oscillating Maharak shield disc. Imagine that the shield disc remains extended while the Ki-Rache Maharak ball collects in the center of the Maharak shield to reform a teardrop-shaped Ki-Rache Akasha Hierophant flame in the center of your shield. Exhale gently while imagining the reformed Ki-Rache Akasha as pale silver energized 3-dimensional Akasha teardrop, pulsing a repeating cycle of pale turquoise, pale yellow and pale pink. This is the Akasha flame. Now inhale very slowly, using the breath to simultaneously draw 3 chords of Ki-Rache frequency up from the Akasha flame at the center of the Maharak shield, 12 inches below your feet, to the Iumbi point just below your navel. Imagine a thin cord of pale turquoise Ki current, the D13 mano frequency, extending up from the Akasha flame and into the small chakra in the ball of your right foot. Imagine a thin cord of pale pink Shea current, the D15 E-ray, extending into the small chakra in the ball of your left foot. And imagine a thin cord of pale yellow Ra current, the D14 Mane, extending directly up your central vertical current into your base chakra between your legs. Continue with a further slow inhale, drawing the 3 Kira Shea currents up into the body at the same speed, while imagining that the pale turquoise and pale pink currents running into the feet arc to the center of your body, merging with the pale yellow center current, so that the 3 currents join at the Iumbi, just below the navel. Exhale gently, while imagining that the meeting of the 3 Kira Shea cords forms a glowing emerald green crystal in the Iumbi. Now inhale gently again, using the breath to draw the Akasha flame from the center of your Maharic shield up through the pale yellow cord in the central vertical current and into the emerald green Kira Shea crystal at the Iumbi point. Then exhale gently when the Akasha flame has entered the emerald green crystal at the Iumbi. And then just breathe gently for a few moments, trying to sense a feeling of warmth or slight buzzing at the Iumbi point. Now inhale a pale silver cord of D12 Maharic frequency up from Earth's core, drawing it into the Akasha flame within the emerald green crystal at the Iumbi. And then exhale forcefully, using the breath to expand the Akasha flame from within, while imagining the flame and emerald crystal popping, releasing the Kira Shea and Akasha flame frequencies into the Iumbi point. Breathe easily for a few moments and imagine that a small pale silver, indigo blue, violet flame, about 2 inches high, spontaneously igniting within the Iumbi point. This releases the power of the Eros flame within the Iumbi. Now inhale, using the breath to draw the pale silver, indigo, blue, violet Eros flame up the central vertical current and into the Azare point at the base of the thymus gland. And then exhale gently to deposit the Eros flame within the deep azure blue crystal at the Azare point. Inhale Maharic current up from the Earth's core and into the pale silver, indigo, blue, violet Eros flame at the Azare point. Then exhale forcefully, using the breath to expand the Eros flame from within until it pops within the Azare point. And try to imagine the pale silver, indigo, blue, violet Eros frequencies spreading throughout the Azare and the base of the thymus gland. Breathe gently for a few moments, while imagining a small azure blue flame about 2 inches high, spontaneously igniting within the Azare point. Inhale Maharic current up from Earth core into the small Azurite flame at the Azure point. Then exhale forcefully, using the breath to expand the Azurite flame outward from the Azure into the auric field, completely permeating and surrounding the physical body. Imagine that its color changes from deep azure blue to deep emerald green blue as the Manu, Mane, and Ire frequencies of the full Amaraya flame activate within the Azure point. Just breathe gently and imagine or intend the deep emerald green-blue Amaraya flame continues to expand throughout your auric field. And as it does, imagine the auric field forms a large, three-dimensional Akasha teardrop emerald flame with a pale silver, indigo blue, violet, Eros, silver sanctum all around the body. The base of the emerald Amaraya flame expands downward to Earth's core, while the tip expands upward to Chakra 14, 36 inches above your head. Bring to mind the 4-foot wide Maharic shield disc, 12 inches below your feet, and imagine the emerald green Amaraya flame is now fully expanded to encompass the Maharic shield. Now, return your attention to the Azure point at the base of the thymus gland. Inhale Maharic current up from earth core to form a small 2-inch pale silver Maharic flame in the Azure. Then exhale forcefully, using the breath to push the pale silver Maharic flame up from the Azure and into the pineal gland. Breathe gently and bring your attention into the pineal gland at the center of the brain. Imagine that the pale silver Maharic flame holds 2 tiny crystals at its center that appear as sparks of light. One, the vibrant violet of D7 frequency, the other, the metallic yellow gold of D8. Inhale Maharic current up from earth core and into the Maharic flame stationed in your pineal gland. Then exhale forcefully, using the breath to fill the Maharic flame with a burst of Maharic current. Breathe easy and imagine that the violet and gold crystals within the Maharic flame vibrate for a moment, then burst into 2 tiny flames, one violet, one gold, within the 2-inch high Maharic flame. Now gently inhale Maharic frequency up from earth core and into the Maharic flame at the pineal gland, and then gently exhale the Maharic current into it. As you breathe easily, imagine that the tiny violet and gold flames within the Maharic flame flare in a magenta pale pink flash as they depolarize and combine with the Maharic flame, forming a silvery pink sunburst of D12 and D15 frequency within the pineal gland. Draw a long, deep in-breath of Maharic current from earth core and then exhale it forcefully, pushing the silvery pink sunburst vertically upwards from the pineal gland through the 7th, 10th, 11th, and finally into the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. Breathe easy for a second or two. And then draw Maharic frequency once more from earth core all the way up to the silvery pink sunburst in chakra 14, and forcefully exhale the silvery pink sunburst all the way down to earth core. Inhale again quickly, using the breath to rapidly draw the silvery pink sunburst up the central vertical to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, and again exhale forcefully, using the breath to send the silvery pink sunburst back down to earth core. Quickly inhale again, using the breath to draw the silver pink sunburst up into the center of the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet. Imagine the silvery pink sunburst as a spinning silvery pink sphere at the center of your Maharic shield. Allow it to spin in whatever direction, speed and rhythm it chooses. Exhale forcefully, using the breath to push D12, D15 current throughout the Maharic shield disc from the spinning silvery pink sunburst sphere at the center of the Maharic shield. Just breathe easy and imagine now or intend that your Maharic shield is glowing as a 4-foot wide disc that repeatedly cycles waves of pale silver, emerald green blue and silver pink frequency throughout your entire body and auric field. Imagine pale silver, emerald green blue and silver pink frequency running through your entire body and auric field. Continue to imagine the waves of pale silver, emerald green blue and silver pink frequency running throughout your entire body and auric field. Okay, we'll move on to the induction of the Rushaya, which, to remind you, opens the gold wave monadic infusion into the central vertical current and the atomic core. So if you bring the Rushaya symbol up to the position that you use for your eyes crossed focus, on the in-breath you pull Maharic frequency up from Earth's core and simultaneously pull the Rushaya into the pineal gland. Forcefully breathe that down from the pineal into Earth's core. The in-breath, pull it, the Rushaya, back up into the center of your Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet. And on the out-breath, expand the Rushaya throughout your Maharic shield. Okay, we'll repeat the process 2 more times. With your eyes crossed and focused on the Rushaya, pull frequency up from Earth's core as you pull the symbol into the pineal. Push the symbol down to Earth's core on the out-breath. Inhale deeply and pull the symbol up to the center of your Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet. And on the out-breath, expand the Rushaya throughout the Maharic shield. Final in-breath, pull the symbol into the pineal as you pull Maharic frequency up from Earth core. On the out-breath, push the symbol down to Earth core. On the in-breath, pull it up to the center of your Maharic shield. And on the out-breath, expand the Rushaya throughout your Maharic shield. Now, with your eyes closed, breathe easy and for several minutes, visualize the gold D8 monadic and the D14 pale yellow frequencies spreading throughout your body, throughout your entire auric field, throughout the cells, the atomic structure of yourself. Try to remember what I was telling you earlier. Treat the frequencies as alive and conscious of you. Celebrate your reunion. Open your fields fully to this opportunity to receive the gold wave infusion fully. In order that you and all forms of life that come into contact from this day forward with your own fields will benefit with the transfer of these frequencies for their own benefit too. We're all here now. Good. Good, good. All right. Okay, bring your mental attention to your throne of power. The Azure point at the base of the thymus gland, and take several gentle, easy breaths. In a moment we're going to take 3 of the 2-pointed breaths. We'll inhale pale silver Maharic frequency up from earth core while drawing pale yellow D14 current down from chakra 14, 36 inches above our heads. So in your own time, take 3 2-pointed breaths, drawing pale silver up from earth core, pale yellow D14 down from chakra 14. Direct the currents to meet at the Azure point at the top of each inhale, building a large spark of the golden silver one in the Azure. Exhale forcefully on each out-breath, using the breath to push the rays of the silver golden one outward in all directions, through every atom and into the auric field. In a moment, we will repeat 3 times the ancient Anahazi command, I am now, my D12 Christos self, past, present, future, forevermore. 3 times out loud we will say the following. Bivectus ore isha nur etur. When you're ready, Bivectus ore isha nur etur. Bivectus ore isha nur etur. Bivectus ore isha nur etur. One time we repeat out loud. I in my wholeness.
I in my wholeness.
Declare now.
Declare now.
That mine eyes shall see the tormentor here.
That mine eyes shall see the tormentor here.
I call to thee, dweller of the darkness, shadow dancer.
I call to thee, dweller of the darkness, shadow dancer.
At the threshold of my soul.
At the threshold of my soul.
In fearless, blameless, all-forgiving, unconditional love.
In fearless, blameless, all-forgiving, unconditional love.
In Christ's love I bid you fond farewell.
In Christ's love I bid you fond farewell.
In divine truth I move now to set us free.
In divine truth I move now to set us free.
To each fulfill our original Christed destiny.
To each fulfill our original Christed destiny.
Go in peace.
Go in peace.
Be warned, beloved fallen.
Be warned, beloved fallen.
Withdraw alone before the eternal life force fires.
Withdraw alone before the eternal life force fires.
Of the universal Christos burn thee.
Of the universal Christos burn thee.
I now reclaim my wholeness and Christed sovereignty.
I now reclaim my wholeness and Christed sovereignty.
I call now to the sacred power.
I call now to the sacred power
Of my personal inner Christos.
of my personal inner Christos.
Awakening the spark of the gold and silver one.
Awakening the spark of the gold and silver one.
And I call upon the Amorea flame of divine love.
And I call upon the Amorea flame of divine love.
That burns eternal now within me.
That burns eternal now within me.
Free now all that which is born of unholy union.
Free now all that is born of unholy union.
Release now from my being.
Release now from my being.
All unintended creations.
All unintended creations.
Uplift me now.
Uplift me now.
To the fulfillment of my inner eternal divine.
To the fulfillment of my inner eternal divine.
Breathe freely and with eyes closed, focus your mental attention upon the inside of your forehead at the third eye chakra. Imagine there a teardrop-shaped pale silver two-dimensional Akasha symbol within the darkness on the inside of your forehead, beginning to form an Akasha-shaped inner movie screen. If you cannot yet visualize this image, simply know that it is there. Intend that it be so. Breathe slowly but freely, and calmly observe any images, pictures or colors that may appear upon the Akasha screen. Listen inwardly for any inner mind chatter, shadow body or shadow dancer commentary. Do not react at all to any images or words that may emerge, but simply observe in peaceful, loving detachment. You are completely safe within the loving embrace of your personal inner Christos. Here, no thing can hurt you. Here, you may rest freely to explore and review any and all parts of your multidimensional experience. a few moments, we'll take one 2-pointed gold and silver one breath. As before, using the inhale to draw pale silver up from earth core and pale yellow D14 down from chakra 14 to meet within the gold and silver one spark at the Azure point in the thymus. You will need to hold this breath at the top of the inhale to amplify thrust, while focusing your mental attention directly into the gold and silver one spark at the Azure. You will then use a strong, quick out-breath to forcefully push the gold and silver one spark directly out in front of you to a position about 2 feet away from your body in the auric field, directly in front of the thymus gland Azure point. So when you're ready, take one 2-point breath, drawing Maharic frequency up from earth core, pale yellow down from chakra 14. Hold the breath at the top. Focus mental attention directly into the gold and silver one spark at the Azure, and use a strong exhale to push the gold and silver one directly out in front of you to a position about 2 feet away from your body. Just breathe freely when you've done it. Imagine now that you can sense dark, slimy black shadow dancer cords beginning to emerge from within their deep, forgotten hiding places inside of your 7 embodied chakras. Try to feel for this movement, all the weight of the heavy shadow dancer cord energy as it begins to move out of the front chakra vortices and directly into the gold and silver one spark, which you have positioned 2 feet out in front of you in your auric field. Just breathe freely, relax, and know that you're safe. Sense, if you can, the feeling of growing lightness within the regions of your embodied chakras as the shadow dancer cords unwind from their ancient hiding places and are drawn into the gold and silver one spark for transmutation and demanifestation. We'll take a minute or two to sense this simultaneous multiple chakra clearing while continuing to breathe gently and whilst mentally repeating the mantra, I am free now, over and over until you begin to genuinely feel the emotional truth of this statement. I am free now. I am free now. I am free now. It will help if you slow the words down. It would be better to say the words silently in your head. As you begin to engage with the assertion, I am free now, you will feel a product of your assertion and the strength of your connection with the assertion and with your Christos, building into forms of emotional release, however slight they may seem or be. Continue to build the frequency of the assertion, I am free now. I am free now. Don't judge anything. Remain relaxed and peaceful within yourself as you build the intensity of your insertion, that you are free of the cords that are increasingly moving into the gold and silver one spark 2 feet out in your auric field. Continue to build the assertion, I am free now, with joy, enthusiasm, with confidence, and possibly with some relief. Allow any emotional charge to move up through you. Don't hold it, allow it to move, allow it to move. Embrace it with confidence, you are safe here. Build it. As you release the cords, it will build. Let them move through you. Gently bring your attention to the gold and silver one spark 2 feet out in front of you in the auric field. If you can see, within a vision, you will see the cords and the emotional charge moving into the gold and silver one. If you can't see, then just intend that that is what's happening, because it is. Imagine that you can see or feel the gold and silver one spark gently pulsating and vibrating as it gently and lovingly absorbs, transmutes, purifies, and sets free the energies of which the Shadow Dancer cords were composed. Continue to breathe freely and imagine for a moment that you can see in the left side of your auric field, the image of the Wysidak Shadow Dancer, standing alone within its black hole world. All dark, slimy black connection cords are gone. The Shadow Dancer can no longer drain life force energies from you or your shadow body. Imagine now that you observe the Shadow Dancer without fear, without anger, without pity. Try to find within your Christos avatar identity the power that you share together. A genuine vibration of gentle, non-judgmental, unconditional love for the retreating Shadow Dancer. Telepathically, send the Shadow Dancer a message of forgiveness, but also a message of uncompromising assertiveness in regard to your intention of gaining freedom and remaining free. Send a final wish of peace and healing to the Shadow Dancer only if you feel inclined to do so. Release the Shadow Dancer now with absolute Christos love and absolute Christos trust. In a moment, inhale. In a moment, inhale, using the inhale breath to draw your gold and silver one spark from the auric field back into the azure point in the base of the thymus. Before you come fully back into body and open your eyes. Try and find one promise that you will make to yourself as a result of this session this morning. One thing that you'd wish to have and to cherish, that will make you stronger, that will have you express more freely, that will have you feel more connection with those beings, with those things and those entities that are to some extent dependent on your own opening, on your own growth, on your own ability to see and feel and be the avatar that you truly are. From a Christos perspective, there are many, many things that hope that the love that you share will from this moment forward express more naturally and more powerfully and more influentially than you have so far experienced. Make yourself one promise, and when you finish that, open your eyes and know you will not break that promise. And as you leave, I would like you to feel the spring in your step. A spring in your step, a new spring in your step that you haven't felt before. And a big smile.
Thank you.
The beginning steps of what to look for and what to find to begin to get the scan to open for you. So that's one thing that I did spend quite a bit of time on this morning, was putting the steps together so you would be able to, when you go home, play with this, but we will do, a run through here so you get a feel for it. It will give you more questions than answers. You'll get some answers that you never even knew you could probably find yourself, and then that'll open up a million more questions. Because a lot of times with Beta Huva scans, you're looking for one thing that's supposed to be there, but for some reason it's not popping up, but a whole bunch of other stuff does, and there's no interpretation for it, and you have no idea what it is. It means your avatar is showing you something. When I learned how to do Beta Huva scans, I learned, it was on-the-job training. I had one of the guardians sitting with me, literally, and they taught me how to do a basic scan, which was not as detailed as this, and I would see things, what's that? And they would interpret as we went along. So this is a bit easier because we've literally got, they're called the 12 Applications of Mastery, which is part of the Dance for Freedom course, and there are 12 different things applications of the Beta Huva scan in the beginning. All of a sudden you find out that, you're reading in your DNA that let's say you have a strong draconian imprint and it looks like a Wisadek one. Does that mean I'm going down for the count? You can get really scared. And if you carry a fear on the subconscious level, you can distort the reading where it might not even really be there, but your fear is actually projecting it as if it was. So it takes a while to get accurate with these scans, particularly in charged issues. If you can approach the Beta Huva scans with an attitude of interested nonchalance. We are not attached to the outcome, where you don't need to know right now. It might be fun, but it's okay if you don't know right now. That's where you'll get the clearest reading. It's when you really have to have it to know that you're an indigo type 1 and you have 48 strands, that you're going to distort the heck out of what you get, because you're already projecting an intention into it. Just like you can walk through a day and say, well, I open myself to the universe today, and whatever's divine right order, I'll just be there and show up and trust that myself, my Christos self, and the universe will work it out, without putting your expectations on your day or on your relationship or throwing expectations at anything. Preferences are one thing, but if your preferences become demands, that's when reality starts to get distorted. That means you're not leaving room for the universe and your higher parts to balance things from a higher level. You're trying to balance it from the ego level. When you come to Beta Huva scans, it becomes doubly important to learn the art of having preferences but not demands, and playing with things instead of working hard at them. then I should take that advice. I haven't learned to do that myself as far as playing with workshops, but I'm working on it. But before we get into the Beta Hoover scans, I want to get into the thing that took me all night to do, which is, let me just figure out how to turn this on and I'll show you. You have a copy of this already, I believe. Is this the on button? Doesn't appear to be. This one? This one. There we go. Okay. This was passed out to you this morning, I believe. All right. Now, again, it's all hand lettered. Eventually this will be typeset and, made into a proper graph. But what this particular diagram shows you is, you know how in Kathara healing we got into the 15-dimensional anatomy and all of that? Well, there's more to the anatomy. Once you get up to 15 dimensions, there's lots more that goes with the Eka God worlds, the Eka, the Akasha A, the Akasha Ea. There's a lot of teachings floating around the planet right now that teach you how to find and activate your light body, whatever the heck that is. A lot of them don't even teach you what the heck a light body is. They teach you you're activating and if you activate your chakras. And a lot of them don't know any structure of even the auric field, hardly at all. Some of them teach a 4-body structure where you have physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. That tells you a lot. This is not a light body diagram. The concept of light body has been used in a deceptive way in the teachings for the last 100 years. The light body has been referring to the electrostatic light body, which is the net, which is the distortion field that we've talked about that's generated by the beast implants, the Metatronic implants in the field. That is indeed a 4-body system. It can't go any higher. It's static in that it can't grow and change. This is why in that body, when people ascend into a black hole system, they tend to stay the same age forever, because the electrostatic imprint of that body is all the capacity they have. They can't grow beyond, they can't go beyond that form. It's like being stuck as a hologram, as if you got trapped in a computer in some kind of wacky computer game, and you can't get out. Now, when we teach something that's called the flame body, there's a big difference between the flame body and the light body. The flame body, even at its lowest levels, is built on light and sound and what are called chelons, or crystal chelons. You can look at them as frozen light and sound patterns. So the light body is a mutated version that does not have its sound equivalents and it does not have its chelon equivalents. And it's useful to understand that, so because there's a lot of other light body workshops around and those kind of things. And it doesn't hurt to be aware of the difference in the teachings. What people that go to light body workshops want to know about is the flame body. That's what they're trying to remember, and that's what they're trying to activate. Now, the flame body is much larger than the light body. We've talked about 15-dimensional anatomy and the 5 Hoover bodies with the 5 radial bodies around them just in dimensions 1 through 15. But there is a whole structure of flame body anatomy that builds and expands outward from there. And as we work with the Veka codes and as we work with the Sons and work to actively get our shields into full activation, what we are doing is progressively activating the flame bodies on all of the levels. Now, the techniques that you've got up to so far, well, we did technique 8 and 13 and 14 particularly, that took you up to a level 4 of what's called the Amareya flame body activation. That is quite a high-level activation of flame body, because most people on the planet right now that are playing with chakras and light body courses aren't even activating up to D11.5. Most of them are getting stuck at about D5 right now, and that's nothing. That's halfway through your soul body. You're not going to get very far in ascension with only that much frequency running on a base 8. Now, within the 15-dimensional structure of our local universe and our local anatomy, we have various levels of the Amareya flame body, as we'll call it. And I'll show you here how to read this diagram. It starts over here, right, with your body at the center, right? And here would be density 1. Now that would be, in density 1, you'd have your dimension 1, 2, 3 Hoover bodies and the radial body around it. Well, when you do Eros flame activation, when you activate your Eros flame, the boundaries between the density 1 and density 2 fields separate, and you get this pale silver liquid light thing called the Eros flame. That is the first level of the flame body. It's the density 1 flame body. From there, it progressively builds, and the Vecca codes are connected to this. When we work with Vecca codes 1, 2, and 3, which there's a list of all of the codes there that was handed out, I think, with this sheet. And I don't know if yours is light at the top like mine is, where you can hardly read them. But the things we've been working with, where we're working with 1, 2, and 3 are the Bivecca, Trivecca, and the Q-Vecca. When we were working with these codes, we're doing two things. There's a set of them that run, like Vecca code 1, 2, and 3, control the radial body between density 1 and density 2. There's also a whole set of second Vecca codes 1 through 12 that are the parallel counterpart to this. And they're what activate. Usually you would activate going up, where you do 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6 in the in-between levels, on the radial body levels, the smaller radial bodies. And once you got that far, then the parallel set would come into full activation and fully activate your Crux and Seda and your Akasha Merkaba and all those things we've talked about in the dance floor programs. Now, what we're doing at this point is we're actually working with activating the parallel set in order to rapidly bring all of the smaller ones into activation simultaneously. So most of us have this sustaining at this point, which is the Eros flame body. That's our silver sanctum body. The first thing, the thing that's the silver Akasha-shaped bubble in our field that is inside of the Amareya flame, which is the emerald blue-green flame. Now, the next level of activation, and this is called the Amareya level 1 activation. So you had Eros, and this goes right with the techniques that are in the papers that you have. So Amareya level 1 activation is when the density 2 capsule dissolves, and it creates what's called the Dora Amareya flame body. That's the soul level of the Amareya flame body. That corresponds with Vecca codes 4, 5, and 6, which we have already done in the dance floor programs. Next level up is the density 3. It's called the Tura Amareya flame body, or the Oversoul Amareya flame. And if you look at this as the 15-dimensional structure, the 5 harmonics, or the 15-dimensional anatomy, progressively the flame is expanding and the polarization levels are disappearing. All right? Now, the density 3 Tura Amareya flame body corresponds with Vecca codes 7, 8, and 9. Now, I believe we've done 7. When you see these little notations in the margins over here next to the code numbers, the triple checks means we did every one of those. So check means it's done. When we have a circle, that means we're around it. That means we're doing it in this program. So it'll be one of the codes that you're getting, one of the 4 codes that you'll be getting through the process of this program. And if there's a straight line, it means it's not given yet, and it'll either be done in Dance for Joy or it's something that will automatically activate because of the higher activations that we're doing along with them. All right, so we have gone past even this. When we moved into Technique 8 and above, we've gone past the Density 3 Tura Amareya flame body. Right now, you guys have even more than this activated in your fields. It's activating on subharmonics, which means when you look at it, it's very, very subtle. It's like very, very pale emerald with the silver inside. The more frequency you bring into it, the more pronounced it will be, the more powerful the flame will be. But right now, you have more frequency running than anybody else on the planet. And that is quite a gift for all of us. I know Az and I and Mac are extremely grateful that these teachings were given back to us, because we not only now have an understanding of what the drama is and where help is needed on this planet, but we've been given back the power. We've been entrusted with the power. And a long time ago, humans in the Hyalay got caught up in the 3D illusion down here. And they didn't protect the knowledge as they should have, and they trusted too easily because they hadn't fully learned the lessons of love. The lessons of love aren't just about learning how to be loving. If you happen to be a draconian soul or an Anunnaki soul, that's your first step. You learn how to love something besides your own self-interest. Once you learn how to love something else, then you have to learn how to hold a love for yourself simultaneously, where you will not allow something else to harm you or to bring harm to the things that you do love. Now, the Hyalay, which are the humans, had a great love for the teachings of freedom and for the cosmic structure itself, for Source, for God. They knew themselves as the children of Source, the children of the lighted ones, the Oraphim. That meant a great deal to them. But what they hadn't learned was not to lay themselves down and get walked on. And in letting themselves get walked on, they allowed the God within themselves to be abused, and they allowed the teachings to be abused, to be taken by those who shouldn't have had them, because they didn't want to be elitist, and they felt everyone was entitled, because everyone was a face of God. What they didn't consider was responsibility and one's ability to be capable of being responsible. The Anunnaki and the Draconians were not capable of handling those teachings responsibly. And once upon a time, we thought it was a good idea to share them with them, thinking they would stay in the Emerald Covenant and use them and heal themselves. That's not what happened. So right now, we're being given back the power that has been missing from ourselves and missing from this particular universal Vecca for quite a very long time. Once we get past this, which we have again already done, we have gone up to Amareya level 4 activation. This is density 4, but it's Amareya level 3 activation. This one is Vecca codes 10, 11, and 12. We've had 10. We're getting 11 during this workshop series. And 12 we will get with the Dance for Joy, which means we will be able to anchor all of the subharmonics of the scepters that are up above this, the scepter pillars. So for now, we're learning to run the subharmonics up to 11. So we don't, put too much frequency in the body, because that could, well, your avatar level won't let you do it. It won't let you run that code right now. Even if it was in the grids, it wouldn't let you run it, because it's too much, too fast for the cellular structure, for the atomic structure. So we have 11 subharmonic activation of density 4 Maharata Amareya, or the Mahara Amareya, which is the Maharata current. That's the Christos level. We have the beginning activations of the Amareya flame on the avatar level. And what's called the density 5 Raja Amareya flame body is also called the Crux Insata, which is the Manu window that allows the body to pass from one reality field, one density field completely into another through the Eka. We have activated this in the fields now. All right, these are what we're going to be amplifying the more frequency we bring in. It's really nice because most of us worked really hard to get those lower level activations. We did Merkaba spins, we were doing Sariyas, and we were doing tonings to the point we couldn't even remember what you're supposed to do first half the time, especially when the next load of information was coming in. It's like, oh no, I forgot what I was supposed to do in the first load. It's very easy now to maintain what you have. We had a lot of help during this workshop because we came here at a time when the gold wave monadic infusion was coming through. So we were able to be assisted by the parts of ourselves that are in the Iani worlds, in the higher God worlds. They were able to run more frequency so we could sustain the activation we have. Now, with some people, it'll shut off briefly when you go home for a couple of weeks, and during that time, you still would do the same thing as the people who will stay activated, so it doesn't matter. We don't have to figure out who's got it activated and who's going to shut down. All you need to do is the Technique 8 once a week. And it's like read it on tape for yourself so you can just put it on and go to sleep. You're still getting the activation, but if you can stay awake, you get it stronger. And just once a day, the 6 steps of part 2 of Technique 8. That will keep your flame body active. But there are some other things you can play with as well if you're interested in expediting that process. The whole process of flame body activation is also the process of clearing the DNA template and the Maharic shield. It is a process of running enough frequency to dissolve the Metatronic implants. And that's why we were given the flame body technologies now, because they are such high-level implants. They affect all the way up to the avatar body. You have to go above and beyond that in order to clear them and dissolve them. Now, what's interesting is we get up to the point where, wow, this is our Rishi body. See the little pointy head? If you ever see in your astral excursions or in the dream state or even standing in your room, which can really freak you out when you come to visit yourself and you don't realize it's you, you think you're getting alien visitation or something. There are times when you can even get on the 3D physical level, and it'll be right after you wake up because you still have some of the conduits directly open and active to the higher realms where it's easier to perceive, and like your Rishi doesn't have to literally come and knock at your front door and maybe you'll let him in. But I've had standing next to my bed what at first I thought was an alien, big tall thing, and it's like glowing white,